The red sky burned above like fire. The air was dry, hot, and full of dust. Nothing moved across the cracked desert floor, except for one broken body, crawling slowly through the sand. Her name was Virella. She was once a royal daughter, born in a house of power and riches, but now her long silver hair was tangled and full of dirt. Her soft blue skin was bruised, bleeding, and sunburned. Her family had left her here to die. They called her a traitor, a shame to the bloodline. They didn't want to kill her directly, so they dropped her in the middle of the wasteland. Where death comes slowly, vultures circled above, screeching in hunger. Their shadows danced over her broken leg and swollen face. She had not eaten in 2 days, not drank anything in 3. Her body was giving up, but her eyes stayed open, full of quiet rage. "I won't die here," she whispered, voice like dry wind, but no one was around to hear her, or so she thought. Far away, a human man walked across the desert. He wore dusty clothes, a backpack full of scrap, and goggles to protect his eyes. His name was Jack, a scavenger, just looking for broken tech to sell. He saw something moving ahead. At first, he thought it was an animal, but as he got closer, he stopped, frozen in shock. It was an alien woman, barely alive. Her lips were cracked, her clothes torn, and her body trembling. Jack slowly walked toward her, careful not to scare her. She raised her head, eyes locking onto his. "Please, don't leave me," she croaked. Jack knelt down, took off his water flask, and gave her a few drops. She drank them fast, like she hadn't tasted water in weeks. "What happened to you?" he asked, voice soft. She tried to answer, but her body gave out. She collapsed into his arms, unconscious. Jack looked around, saw no one else. Just vultures above and sand all around. He could walk away, pretend he saw nothing. But something in her eyes had stopped him. He picked her up gently, even though she was heavier than expected. "Hang on," he muttered. "You're not dying today." He walked 4 miles, back to his hidden shelter. It was an old underground bunker left from a forgotten war. Inside, it was cool and quiet. Safe from the deadly sun, he laid her on an old mattress. Covered her with a blanket, he checked her leg. It was broken, maybe crushed. He cleaned the wound with an old medkit and gave her a few more sips of water. That night, she woke up in the dark, eyes wide with fear. She grabbed a sharp piece of metal near the bed and pointed it at him. "Who are you?" She growled weakly. Jack raised his hand slowly. "I'm not your enemy. I found you in the desert." "You're human," she said, surprised. "Yeah. Last I checked," Jack replied with a slight grin. "Why? Why did you help me?" "She?" asked, voice shaking. "You were dying," he said simply. "And I don't walk away from that." She dropped the metal shard, tears suddenly filling her eyes. "I thought I was going to die alone," she whispered. Jack didn't know what to say. He just sat beside her, silent and steady. Later that night, while she slept, Jack noticed something. A strange glow under the skin of her wrist, like a slow pulse. It wasn't natural. He scanned it with a small device from his pack-wet. He saw made his eyes widen. "This isn't just a girl," he said to himself. She's someone important." He didn't know who she really was yet. He didn't know the secret she carried in her blood, or the danger that would come looking for her. But one thing was certain. This wasn't just an act of kindness anymore. It was the beginning of something much bigger. And Jack had already taken the first step into a storm that could change the galaxy. Virella opened her eyes to darkness and silence. For a second, she forgot where she was. Then, pain struck like lightning her leg, her ribs, her dry throat. She gasped, her body stiff from days of suffering. The ceiling above her was metal, old and rusty. She wasn't under the sky anymore. And the stench of death had been replaced by something else, burned fabric and old wires. Her heart raced as she remembered the last thing she saw. A human face, rough, sunburnt, with tired eyes and kind hands. He had picked her up. Held her like she wasn't trash. Could that have been real? Or just a dream before dying? Suddenly, footsteps echoed, slow and heavy. She grabbed the sharp shard still under the blanket. Her only weapon, the man entered, holding a steaming tin cup and a rag in one hand, when he saw her awake and alert. He smiled softly. "You're up," he said, his voice calm. "Didn't think you'd make it through the night? Stay back." She barked, raising the shard toward him. But her hands trembled too much to make it a real threat. He didn't flinch, just knelt down beside the old heater in the corner. "You stab me, you'll be stuck alone again," he muttered, pouring water into a cup. Varela lowered the shard, her pride bruised. "Who are you?" she asked. "Name's Jack," he replied, sliding the cup toward her. "I find scrap in the wastes. Sell it, fix it, survive." She sniffed the water, hesitated, then drank it all in one go. Her throat burned. But she didn't stop. Jack watched her quietly, then said, "Your leg's broken, but I patched it the best I could." She looked down and saw the metal splint he'd made from an old antenna and cloth. It wasn't pretty, but it was holding. "Why help me?" she asked again. More softly this time. Jack shrugged, leaning back on his elbow. "You looked like you were done," he said, "but your eyes, they weren't giving up." Varela turned her face away. "Ashamed? They left me," she whispered. "My own family threw me to die out there." Jack didn't ask for details. He just waited, giving her space to speak or stay silent after. A long pause, she said, "I'm Varela." Jack nodded slowly. "That name means something?" he asked casually. She hesitated, then said, "Once, it meant everything." She didn't tell him yet that she was a daughter of the House of Corinth, once respected across 5 systems. Now, her name was a death sentence. They had branded her disloyal, poisoned her, and sent her into the wasteland. Suddenly, her body started shaking. Jack rushed to her side, placing a hand on her forehead. "You're burning up," he said. "I thought the infection was slowing down, but it's spreading." Varela coughed, her eyes watering. "You don't understand," she said weakly. "This isn't a normal sickness." "What do you mean?" Jack asked, frowning. "It's a punishment," she groaned. "They didn't just leave me to die, they infected me with something. Something they engineered." Jack grabbed his handheld scanner from the shelf and ran it over her wrist. A small, red light pulsed beneath her skin, a natural. He zoomed in on the reading and saw it. Nanotech particles, living machines, attacking her from inside. "They tried to erase you," he said quietly. "Not just kill you, but unmake you." Varela nodded, eyes filled with pain and shame. "I'm not supposed to exist anymore." Jack stood up, walked across the room, and slammed his fist on the metal wall. The noise echoed through the bunker. Then he turned, looked her straight in the eye. "Too bad for them," he said. "You do exist. And I'm not letting you vanish like they want." She blinked in disbelief. "No one's ever said that to me before," she whispered. "Well, someone should have," Jack replied. He handed her a small silver tube. "Energy paste. Tastes like glue, but it'll keep you alive." She took it, still staring at him with wide, confused eyes. "What are you?" she asked quietly. Jack chuckled. "Just a stubborn human who doesn't know when to walk away." That night, she slept again, this time without fear. But Jack didn't sleep. He sat beside her, watching the readings on his scanner. The infection was accelerating, and he only had one idea where a cure might be. He stared at the small glowing symbol now visible on her wrist. An old mark from a forgotten empire. It wasn't just her name that mattered. It was what she carried in her blood. And tomorrow, they'd go searching for it, even if it meant crossing into territory where both of them were hunted. Jack didn't sleep that night. He sat on the floor of the bunker. Leaning against a rusted pipe, his scanner blinked softly in the dark. Every few seconds, a red wave passed across the screen. The nanotech inside Varella's body was changing, multiplying, learning. Jack had seen infection before, bacterial, viral, parasitic, but this was different. It wasn't designed to kill quickly. It was meant to erase her. Slowly, the tech in her blood was old, older than any standard royal science. It carried encryption levels he hadn't seen since Earth still had a seat in the Galactic Senate. And that was centuries ago. Varela moaned softly in her sleep. Her body twitching, he stood up and placed a cool cloth on her forehead. Her skin burned like she was on fire from the inside. She was slipping, minute by minute. Suddenly, she sat up, gasping. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "Where am I?" she asked in a shaky voice. Jack gently pushed her back onto the pillow. "You're safe," he said. "But you're burning up again. I had a dream," she whispered. "No. Not a dream, a memory." Jack leaned closer. "What did?" "You see?" "I saw my father," she said slowly, standing over me with no emotion, watching as the doctors injected something into my blood. She touched her wrist, the one glowing with strange light. He said I would be a lesson too. Others, that no daughter of Carinth should ever defy the throne. Jack's jaw clenched. "What did you do?" he asked carefully. "I refused to marry a warlord they chose for me," she replied. "I chose a diplomat's son instead, and for that, they called it betrayal." Jack looked at the scanner again. "These aren't just any nanobots," he said. "They're tied to your genetics, keyed to your bloodline. They're rewriting your DNA, removing your royal markers, your memory codes, even your fertility systems. They want to erase everything that proves you ever existed." Varela stared at him in horror. "I thought they just wanted me dead," she said. "No," Jack replied. "They want you." Forgotten for a moment, neither spoke. Then Varela said, "There is one place that might hold the key to reversing this." Jack leaned forward. "Where?" "The Vault of Saren," she whispered. "It's buried in the Ashlands, hidden by our ancestors during the rise of the House of Carinth. It holds ancient knowledge, forbidden tech, and records of our bloodlines." Jack stood up and grabbed a worn-out map from the shelf. He unrolled it across the floor, fingers tracing old sectors and destroyed cities. The Ashlands were marked in black, with warning symbols and death rates. "Great," Jack muttered. "Right in the middle of the worst storm zone on the planet." "You don't have to go," Varela said quietly. "It's not your war." But Jack turned and looked at her firmly. "You're wrong," he said, "when they left you to die. They made it everyone's war, and I'm not leaving you halfway." She blinked, her throat tight with emotion. "No one's ever stood with me like this," she whispered. "Not even the one I loved." "Well," Jack said, grabbing his old blaster and a radiation hood. "I'm not everyone, before dawn." He helped her into a mobility harness, half metal, half scavenged servo parts. It held her body upright and reduced strain on her leg. The infection made her weak, but she pushed through. "I'm ready," she said. They stepped out in two. The cold air, the sky still dark, but glowing at the edges. As they walked, Jack noticed something new, where her skin touched his. There was a faint pulse, like her nanotech was recognizing him, reacting to his presence. He didn't mention it, not yet. Hours later, they reached the edge of the Ashlands. Mountains of gray dust rolled like dead waves. Static crackled in the air and lightning danced across the sky, even without clouds. "This place hates life," Jack muttered. Varela pointed toward a jagged hill. "There," she said. "Beneath that ridge lies the entrance." They climbed with effort, dodging electrical bursts and shifting sand. By the time they reached the top, Varela was nearly unconscious. Jack carried her the last stretch, his boots slipping in the loose dust. Finally, he found it a circular metal hatch, half buried beneath a slab of stone. He cleared it and placed her hand against it. The mark on her wrist pulsed brightly. The door shuddered, then slid open with a deep, metallic groan. Inside was a tunnel of black steel and golden light. Cool air spilled out, and strange glyphs lit up along the walls. Jack looked down at her. "Varela," he whispered. "We made it." But just as he stepped forward, a sharp alarm screamed from deep within the vault. And a voice cold and mechanical spoke in an alien tongue. Then, silence, and the ground began to tremble beneath their feet. The vault's door slid open with a deep rumble. Cold air swept out from inside. Carrying the scent of metal and dust older than memory, Jack tightened his grip on Varela as the floor shook beneath them. The strange voice that had echoed moments earlier was now gone, but something had definitely been awakened. "Are we safe?" he asked quietly, his blaster drawn. Varela's head rested against his shoulder, her voice faint. "The vault. It knows me," she whispered. "It was built for my blood." They stepped into the tunnel, which curved downward into golden light. Glyphs lit up along the walls as they passed symbols that danced and pulsed with energy. Jack recognized none of it, but Varela's eyes flickered with brief flashes of understanding. "It's waking up because I'm here," she said, her voice a little stronger now. "How much do you know about this place?" Jack asked. "Only fragments," she replied. "When we're born into royal houses, they implant certain memories, but they stay locked until a trigger unlocks them. This vault is one of those triggers." Jack glanced around as more doors slid open down the hall. Behind them, the vault door hissed shut, sealing them inside. "No turning back now," he muttered. They entered a massive chamber, its ceiling lost in darkness. In the center floated a glowing crystal structure, slowly rotating. Wires extended from it like veins. Disappearing into the walls, beneath it was a smooth silver pedestal, waiting. Varela stepped forward slowly. When her hand touched the pedestal, the crystal froze in place. A sharp pulse shot through the room, and Jack felt it in his bones. Then her eyes rolled back, and she collapsed. "Varela!" Jack shouted, catching her before she hit the floor. Her body trembled violently, but her lips moved as if whispering something unseen. Then her eyes snapped open. Nan, they weren't the same. A map glowed inside her pupils, flickering like a star chart. "I can see it," she whispered. "The original code. The family tree, the kill switch. It's all in here. Every betrayal, every lie." Jack helped her sit up, staring at the changing lights in her eyes. "You're saying the infection? The nanotech? It was planned generations ago." "Yes," she said with a cold, steady tone. "Every royal child was fitted with a self-destruct system, in case they ever chose love over duty, peace over war." Jack shook his head, sickened. "They raised you like weapons, not people." Varela nodded slowly. "We were tools of control." She stood up, her balance steadier now. Her skin looked healthier, the infection slowing. "The vault is rewriting the nanotech," she said. "It's giving me access to override the code. Can you cure yourself?" Jack asked. "I can," she said, "but it comes with a cost." Jack stepped closer. "What kind of cost?" Her expression darkened. "To stop the nanotech, I have to sever my bloodline signature. I would no longer be a daughter of Carinth. I'd be a nobody." Jack looked at her, silent for a moment. "Then do it," he said. "You don't need their name. You're more than what they gave you." Tears welled in her eyes. "You don't understand," she whispered. "My name was everything. My title, my power, my future." Jack stepped closer, took her hand. "No," he said. "Your life is everything." A new chamber opened. To their left, revealing a medical pod with glowing lights, Virella stepped inside, laying down slowly as metal arms extended from above. Jack watched helplessly as the pod closed and lights flickered. A voice echoed from within the chamber walls. Genetic detachment initiated. Cleansing royal markers, minutes passed like hours. Then the pod hissed open, releasing steam. Virella stepped out and Jack gasped. Her eyes were still the same color, but the light behind them had changed. The mark on her wrist was gone, and with it, the glowing infection. I feel free, she said softly. No more sickness, no more chains. Jack smiled. But their moment was short. The chamber lights turned red, and a new alarm sounded. An ancient defense system activated from the far end of the hall. A large machine descended from above, 6 arms, glowing sensors, and a blade-tipped appendage that screeched as it extended. It scanned them and spoke in an ancient tongue. Virella's breath caught in her throat. It's a blood guardian, she whispered. It's designed to kill anyone without the royal marker. Jack raised his blaster. But you just erased yours. Yes, she said. And now it sees us both as intruders. The machine lunged forward. And Jack fired, but the bolt bounced off its shield. Virella screamed, "Run!" and pulled him down a side tunnel. They ran through the glowing corridors as the machine chased them. Jack could feel the air burning behind them as laser blasts hit the walls. They turned a sharp corner and dove into a supply room. The door shut behind them, just as the Guardian crashed into it. They were trapped, breathing hard, backs against cold steel. But inside the room, something pulsed in the darker, forgotten weapon. Or maybe a choice that would change everything. The walls of the small supply room shook from another impact. Sparks fell from the ceiling as the ancient Guardian machine outside roared with power. Jack pulled Virella deeper inside, scanning the room with wide eyes. They had seconds, maybe less. The chamber was filled with forgotten relics, half-broken tech, crystal power cores, and faded banners of the House of Carinth. The room smelled of old energy and dust. But something in the far corner caught Virella's attention. A glowing pod shaped like a sarcophagus. Humming with faint blue light, she limped toward it, placing her hand on its cold surface. This is a royal echo weapon, she whispered. Only the Empress was allowed to touch it. The vault door behind them boomed again, the machine trying to cut through. Jack looked over her shoulder. Can it help us? He asked. If I'm right, she said. It's not just a weapon, it's a symbiotic battle unit, designed to bind with the user's energy and thoughts. Jack stepped back as the pod suddenly hissed, unlocking with a soft click. Inside lay a suit, sleek, silver, alive with shifting lines and micro-runes. It didn't look old. It looked like it had been waiting. Virella hesitated. It was made for someone else. Someone stronger. Jack placed a hand on her shoulder. You erased your past, he said. Time to choose who you are now. She nodded once, her face hardening. I'm no longer a daughter of Carinth, she whispered. I'm a survivor. She stepped into the pod, and the suit responded instantly. Metallic fibers wrapped around her body, fitting to her form like water made of armor. Light pulsed from her chest plate. Then from her eyes, the transformation was fast, powerful, and beautiful. When she stepped out, Jack stared in awe. You look like a storm ready to break, he said. I feel like one. She replied with a small smirk. The vault door cracked at the edges. One final blow would bring it down. Virella stepped forward, raised her hand, and from her palm a spear of energy formed. Let it in, she said, her voice steady. No more running. The door exploded inward, and the Guardian machine charged through, 6 arms spinning, weapons glowing. But this time, Virella didn't step back. She moved like wind and lightning, graceful and deadly. Jack watched as she dodged the first strike, then leaped into the air. Her spear met the Guardian's main sensor in a flash of white light. The machine howled, slashing with a blade arm. She blocked it mid-air, sparks flying in every direction. The fight shook the entire vault. Stone-cracked pillars shattered, but Varela stood strong. Jack aimed his blaster, firing at the joints and vents, giving her just enough space to move. The Guardian roared and adapted, its body shifting into new forms. 2 arms became shields. Another formed a pulse cannon. It shot a blast of plasma too fast for most beings to dodge, but Varela vanished in a blur, reappearing behind it. She drove the spear deep into its spine. The machine shuddered, limbs twitching. Then, with a final burst of energy, it collapsed to the ground. Smoke rose from its broken shell. Jack rushed to her side. "You okay?" She nodded, breathing heavily, but standing tall. "I remembered every training simulation I was forced into," she said. "But this was real." Jack placed a hand on her armored arm. "You were incredible," he said. "You didn't just fight it. You owned it." Varela looked down at the broken machine. "This Guardian was the final test," she whispered. "If I could survive it, the vault would unlock fully." Behind them, the chamber shifted. Walls slid away too. Reveal a deeper corridor, this one lined with gold and crystal. And at the end stood a throne, floating above a platform. Varela walked toward it slowly as she neared. A projection appeared in the air. An image of her mother, the former empress, regal and cold. "Varela," the projection said, "if you've reached this place, it means they tried to erase you. It means you defied us." Varela stared up, unmoving. "Yes, I did," she said quietly. "I chose love over blood." The projection continued, "But it also means you are stronger than we ever allowed ourselves to be. If you have survived the Guardian, the vault, the exile, then you have earned a right to choose your own path." The throne flickered and then shattered into light. Behind it, a staircase descended into a glowing chamber. Varela turned to Jack. "Are you still with me?" Jack gave a small smile. "Even if this path leads into fire," he said, "I'll walk it with you." They took the first step together, not as strangers, not as royalty and scavenger, but as 2 souls bound by choice, pain, and something far deeper. Below them waited answers, and perhaps a future that neither of them expected. The staircase descended deeper than Jack expected. Each step echoed like thunder, swallowed by the glowing chamber below. He held Varela's hand as they moved downward. Her armor dimmed with each step, responding to something ancient beneath the surface. They reached the bottom, and the room opened wide. It looked like a cathedral, but built with alien hands. The walls shimmered with living metal, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. At the center stood a ring of fire reel, but suspended in mid-air, it crackled without heat. Dancing around a glowing platform, Varela froze at the edge. "This is the trial of identity," she whispered. "My mother told me about it when I was a child, like a myth." Jack looked around, wary. "What kind of trial?" he asked. "A trial to prove who you really are," she replied. "Only those who enter and survive may choose a new destiny." Jack's brow furrowed. "I thought we already did that." Varela shook her head slowly. "This isn't about proving myself to others," she said. "This is about proving it to myself." She stepped forward, toward the fire. As she reached the edge, the flames parted slowly. Jack started to follow, but a beam of light blocked his path. Varela turned to him, eyes soft. "I have to do this alone," she said. "Promise you'll be here when I come back." Jack placed his hand against the light. "I'll be waiting," he said. "No matter how long it takes." She nodded once and stepped through. The fire closed behind her, cutting Jack off completely. Inside the ring, Varela felt weightless. She floated through a sea of memory images, flashing in bursts of color and sound. Her mother's cold eyes, her siblings laughing as she was dragged away in chains. The needle piercing her wrist, the pain, the betrayal, the silence. Then new images: Jack's face under the desert sun, his hand reaching for hers, his voice saying, "You do exist." And for the first time, she didn't cry. The trial changed around her. The fire became water. And she found herself standing in front of 3 figures. Each one was a version of herself. One wore the royal robe of House Carinth, her face proud and cruel. The second was the dying girl in the desert, her body broken, her eyes empty. The third was the woman she had become, armored, scarred, but alive. You can only carry one of us forward, they said in unison. Virella looked at them and took a deep breath. She stepped toward the armored version and placed her hand on her own chest. "I choose the one who survived," she said, "the one who was saved." And who saved herself? The other 2 vanished in smoke. The chamber burst into light, and she screamed as something inside her shifted. It felt like her blood was on fire, but this time, not from poison, from rebirth, outside the ring. Jack heard her scream. He wanted to rush in, but the barrier held him back. "Come on," he whispered. "Don't leave me now." Suddenly, the fire exploded outward, sending shockwaves through the room. Jack ducked behind a pillar, shielding himself from the blast. When he looked again, the ring was gone, and Virella stood in its place. But she was different. Her armor had fused into her skin like it had become part of her. Her eyes no longer glowed. They burned with golden light. Energy pulsed from her every step. "Virella," Jack said carefully. She smiled, walking toward him. "It's still me," she said, her voice stronger than ever. "But now, I'm more." Jack reached for her, and when their hands touched, a current passed between them. Not painful but deep, like an unspoken truth. "What happened in there?" he asked. "I let go of who I was supposed to be," she answered, "and I chose who I want to become." The vault shifted once more, revealing a new exit, one that led back to the surface. But before they left, a final message played from the center of the chamber, a hologram of the Empress, her face softer this time. "To the one who survives," she said, "you are now unbound. No longer our daughter, no longer our enemy. You are free." The message faded, and silence returned. Virella looked at Jack, her fingers tightening around his. "I want to leave this world," she said. "Not just the Veltha." Planet Jack nodded. "There's a port city west of here. Black market, dangerous, perfect for escape. We'll find a ship, then we fly," she whispered. "But we don't run anymore." Jack grinned. "No," he said. "We build something new." Together, they stepped into the tunnel. Side by side, reborn in fire and choice, and behind them, the vault closed forever. The desert wind howled across the cliffs as Virella and Jack stood at the edge of the world. Below them, the black market city of Zareth Port shimmered under a red-ringed sky. Ships came and went like insects, fast, noisy, and illegal. Everything there was for sale, including lives. "We'll find a pilot," Jack said, adjusting the strap on his gear. "Maybe even a ship." Virella nodded, her eyes scanning the skyline. But her thoughts were elsewhere. The vault's trial still echoed in her mind. The pain, the fire. The choice she made to become more than a name. She was free now, no longer a daughter of Carinth, no longer hunted by her own blood. And yet, something pulled at her heart. They descended into the city, walking past shady traders, mercenaries, and smugglers. Jack led them through the maze of alleys until they reached an old hangar. Inside was a sleek smuggler's vessel with cracked wings and battle scars. "I know the owner," Jack said with a grin. "He owes me a favor," while he negotiated. Virella stood near the edge of the platform. Suddenly, a loud hiss echoed behind her, and shadows moved. She turned, froze. 6 royal guards stepped From the darkness, clad in black and gold armor, their weapons raised, their helmets hiding their faces. One stepped forward and removed his helmet, revealing a familiar face, General Rovan, her cousin, the man who had once dragged her to the edge of the desert and whispered, "You deserve this, Varela of Carinth." He said coldly, "You will come with us, by order of the High Council." "I'm not yours to order anymore," she replied. "You carry royal blood," he said. "That is not yours to cast aside." Varela's fists clenched, energy humming around her palms. "I burned that blood in fire," she said. "I made a choice." Rovan stepped closer. "Your disappearance has created chaos," he said. "Factions. Fight to claim your empty seat. If you return, you could stop a civil war." "I'm not going back to be used," she snapped. "I'm not a crown. I'm a person." Behind her, Jack stepped out of the hangar. "Blaster drawn? Problem?" he asked. Rovan sneered. "So this is the human who poisoned your mind." Jack raised an eyebrow. "She saved me too," he said. "So what does that make you?" The guards raised their weapons. Varela stepped between them, voice sharp. "You want peace? Then listen," she said. "I'll come with you, but not as your property." Rovan's eyes narrowed. "Then how?" "As your mirror," she said, "to remind you what loyalty really means. You made me bleed, left me to die, but I lived." She raised her hand, and a small device appeared in her palm, a data crystal glowing with the signature. "Of the vault, I have every secret your empress hid," she said. "Every crime, every false war, every erased name." Gasps passed among the guards. Rovan stepped back, shaken. "If you try to chain me again, I'll burn the whole legacy down," she warned. "But if you want to build something better, then follow me." The silence that followed was long and heavy. Then one of the guards stepped forward, moved her helmet and knelt. Others followed, one by one, laying their weapons at her feet. Rovan hesitated, then bowed his head. "You are not the girl we left in the sand," he said. "No," Varela replied. "I'm the woman who came back." Later, in the hangar, Jack sat beside her on a crate, watching ships fly above. "So what now?" he asked. "You go back, sit on a throne." Varela shook her head. "No throne," she said. "No crown." "Then what?" Jack asked. She looked at him, eyes soft, voice steady. "I want to lead, but not rule," she said. "I want to teach them what it means to protect life instead of controlling it." Jack nodded slowly. "And me?" Varela smiled and reached for his hand. "You were never just part of the journey," she said. "You are the journey." The hangar lights dimmed as night fell. Varela stood, her new armor catching the moonlight. She looked up at the stars. Not as a runaway, not as royalty, but as someone reborn. Jack joined her. Their fingers laced together, and in the distance, the city whispered with stories of a fallen princess who rose again with a human by her side. Not as her savior, but as her equal. And as their ship rose into the sky, the galaxy opened wide before them. No longer hunted, no longer hiding. Just two souls rewriting the stars together.